In 1965, Marcos ran for the presidency under the Nationalista Party. At that time, a bilateral electoral system was being followed. A few months earlier, he had been president of the opposing Liberal Party. Accelerating the economy and development has been one of the priorities of the Marcos administration. They were offered indifference from tax exemption privileges and the dispensation of bringing out their profits in overseas low-cost tenders. The gross national product from 55 billion pesos in 1972 to 193 billion pesos in 1980. The tourist group consists of Filipino balikbayan or returners under the Ministry of Tourism's Balikbayan program, which was launched in 1973. The economic growth rate averages 6% to 7% during the 1970s to 1980, compared with 5% in the previous decade. The GDP of the Philippines increased from 55 billion pesos in 1972 to 193 billion pesos in 1980.
The first formal election since 1969 for the interim Batasang Pambansa or National Assembly were held in 1978 in order to settle the Catholic Church before the visit of Pope John Paul II. Marcos officially lifted the martial law on January 17, 1981. However, he retained much of the government's power for the arrest and detention. One of the mainly significant economic programs in 1980s was the Kinusang Kabuhayan at Kaunlaran, or Movement for the Livelihood and Progress. This program was ongoing in September 1981. Another chief resource of economic growth of the country was the transfer of funds of abroad Filipino workers. Thousands of Filipino workers found employment in the Middle East, Singapore, and Hong Kong. A big share of the annual earning of the country was owed to the payment of 12 monthly in gain on loans. The Philippines economy underwent a grand decline after the Aquino killing in 1921-1980. Corruption and nepotism as well as civil unrest. This contributed to the serious decline of our government and economic growth and development of Marcos regime.
In 1986, Corazon Aquino focused her presidential campaign on the misdeeds of Marcos and his cronies. The economic correctives that she proposed emphasized the central role for private enterprise and the moral imperative of reaching out to the poor and meeting their needs, reducing unemployment, encouraging small-scale enterprise, and developing the neglected rural areas were the themes. The Aquino administration appeared to be unable to work with the Congress to enact an economic package to overcome the country's economic difficulties. In July, as the government deficit soared, Secretary of Finance Jesus Estanislao introduced a package of new tax measures. Then in October, stalemated with Congress, Aquino agreed to seek a reduction in the budget gap without new taxes. The agreement met with resistance from Congress for being an onerous imposition on an economy in crisis. Growth would be stifled and the poor would be impacted negatively. In 1990, Congress placed a 9% levy on all imports to provide revenues until an agreement could be reached with the administration on a tax package. In February 1991, however, it was learned that in its agreement with the IMF for new standby credits, the government had promised that it would indeed implement new taxes.
The Philippines has been a third world country for many years, but during the presidency of the former President Fidel V. Ramos, the economy was different. I am Joyce Nunez from Group 7, and we will be having a recap on how President Fidel V. Ramos changed the economy upside down.
Mr. President, what happened in the last 10 years? From one of the booming tiger economies, we've become less sure of ourselves, a little bit more pessimistic. What happened in the last 10 years?
Well, let's really talk about the last 7 years, because up to June 1998 it was still very good.
Ramos administration were very successful in implementing peace and order in the country. There were less political threats. There was peace and unity between the Muslims and the government. Cases of rebellion were very minimum to none at all. Thus, foreign investors became more interested and encouraged to do business in the Philippines. Despite the Asian financial crisis, which took place during Ramos' presidency, his wit and technique saved the country from being affected by such flack. The Philippines suffered less from economic problems compared to the other neighboring countries. In return, observers have labeled the country okay, the next tiger economy in Asia, during his reign.
The performance of the President Fidel V. Ramos was indeed fantastic. If only the succeeding presidents were as persuasive as him, the country would have experienced prolonged economic stability. But just like any other country, the Philippines is still optimistic and hoping for a change.
Good day, my fellow Filipino citizens. It's a new day. But at the end of the day, have you ever noticed how our economy is going? Or are you aware of what status we are in? Or are you giving a risk to better understand the things around you and the place where you are standing? Well, it's time for you to be aware, to put an eye, to be knowledgeable, and to be part of this growing economy. Adopt a good judgment, criticism, and any other progressive opinion. Let me therefore state and discuss the economy during the first term of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo from 2001 to 2004. And now let us know how did Gloria Macapagal Arroyo handle the budget deficit and the most successful year for the economy of the Philippines during the first term of President Arroyo. The country's budget deficit reached an all-time high of 212 billion pesos, representing about 5.3% of the gross domestic product. For 2003, the government set a budget deficit ceiling at 147 billion pesos, or around 4.7% of the GDP. Its general economy of the Philippines during 2001 to 2004. First, the Philippines faced higher oil prices, higher interest rates on its dollar borrowing, and higher inflation. Fiscal constraints limit Manila's ability to finance infrastructure and social spending. The Philippines' consistently large budget deficit on a high debt level and has forced Manila to spend a large portion of the national government budget on debt service. Large and profitable public enterprises, especially in the energy sector, contributor of the government's debt because of slow progress and privatization. Credit rating agencies are increasingly concerned about the Philippines' ability to sustain the debt. Legislative progress and new measures will rain heavily on credit rating decisions.
The second term of PGMA administration is really all about growth in a stronger economy, that's what she said. But what really are the stories behind this matatag na ekonomiya? Good day, this is Randy Balata